guys, welcome back to The Bright Side. Macy here, The Bright Side Girl, and today I'm going to be talking about some slightly spooky trilogies that are perfect for fall. My hair is extra big today, so just kind of bear with me. I'm going to try not to mess with it too much. But I have 10 slightly spooky trilogies that I really enjoy for this time of year. So these are all going to be young adult trilogies. I especially enjoy spooky, gothic, and mild young adult horror this time of year because it's not like truly terrifying or overly gory. And I'm looking for like certain atmosphere and vibe, and most of these hit that really well. So we're just gonna dive in. All right, I'm not doing these in any particular order, but I am gonna try to save like my favorite two for the end. So we have the Princess of Westfalen trilogy. This is by Jessica Day George. The first book in the series is Princess of the Midnight Ball. I do recommend that you read them in order. I unfortunately only have the first book so far. I get a lot of my books like out book hunting used and things like that, and I haven't come across the other ones just yet. So this is a slightly gothic spooky trilogy that has different retellings. However, they do go in order. So the first one, Princess at the Midnight Ball, is a 12 Dancing Princess retelling, which is why I read this one. I just love a 12 Dancing Princess retelling. I have read 3 or 4 so far. I've loved them all. They have all been great for spooky gothic season. So that is what the first one followed. The second one is Princess of Glass, which is a Cinderella retelling. And then this final one is Princess of the Silver Woods, which is a Red Riding Hood retelling. Similar to like House of Salt and Sorrows, each one follows like a different sister from the main story and ties in things from the other books. So you do want to read them in order. This is a more old school young adult series, fairy tale retelling. So the writing style does kind of affect that. I feel like these do read on the younger side, but they're still really enjoyable, especially if you love a fairy tale retelling with just a little bit of like spooky woods gothic atmosphere. Next, we have the Bone Witch trilogy. So first book being The Bone Witch, second book being Heart Forager, third book being The Shadow Glass. Now, these lean more fantasy than they do like full-on spooky season read. There's royalty and politics, leans more fantasy than it does like gothic fall vibes. However, there is magic and necromancy in here, as our main character is a bone witch. Like the quote on the back is, "Let me be clear, I never intended to raise my brother from his grave, though he may claim otherwise. If there's anything I've learned from him in the years since, is that the dead hides truths as well as the living." So Tia is a bone witch, which makes her feared and ostracized by society because bone witches have such strong elemental powers. This leads Tia at a young age to leave her home and to begin training under another witch. She is doing everything she can to become an Asha and control her elemental powers. And she's trying to become as strong as possible because there is war threatening like her homeland that she wants to help be a part of. Very loose description. There is romance in here. There's magic. It's one of my favorite fantasy series. It is just done so well. I believe I did most of these on audiobook, and the narrator was so incredible. And the ending to this one is one of the best endings to a trilogy like I have ever read. I don't see enough people talking about this series, and like look how beautiful they are. This is one that I feel like works really good for people that think that they might not like YA because the writing style is mature and the story is just so engaging. So I really love this one. A more recent read for me and a newer series is the Market of Monsters trilogy. So we have Not Even Bone, When Ashes Remain, and When Villains Rise. This is one of the most unique series I have ever read. So I've started the first one last year and I finished the series recently. I physically read the first 2 and then I did the last one on audio. So we are in this world where people have become monsters. Like not everyone, a lot of people have become monsters and developed different abilities or different needs. There are like these zombie type monsters. There are these monsters that need to feed on human souls. There are monsters that need to feed on human pain. There are vampires. A lot of them just look like normal humans. Nita and her mother work in like a black market where they dissect the bodies of the monsters and sell them on this like dark web, dark eBay type place because the bones and the organs and different body parts of the monsters can do different things. I believe if you grind the bones of like one of the unicorn monsters, you can kind of like use it like cocaine, and then another one will give you like an ability to hear. So her and her mother like find monsters and dissect them and sell them. She has never questioned this because this is how she's grown up until her mother brings home a teenage boy that is alive and she wants him to dissect him, and Nita is now questioning everything she's ever done. This series I have such mixed feelings about because it is written so well. It is so unique. We are set in South America for a lot of it, which is really different and interesting to read about. The world is absolutely fascinating. Our characters are very much villainous and extremely morally gray. I think kind of similar to like Vicious by V.E. Schwab or This Savage Song by V.E. Schwab, but maybe even a little bit more morally gray. This one's YA, but definitely for like an older YA group to adult, because it is kind of like a Dexter reimagining almost. It's very gory and gruesome. They talk about like chopping Nita's toe off and her having to watch it being chopped off, and a lot more gruesome than a lot of the other things I'm going to recommend, and a lot more gruesome than what I would normally like. However, because it was so fascinating with the different kinds of monsters and everything that was happening, I just was really engaged with it. It does have a small kind of romance, lots of friendship as well, but a lot of politics in this one, which in this particular one I didn't love quite as much because I wanted to learn even more about the monsters and the rules and the humanity of them, and it leaned a little bit more to being about like relationships and politics. However, it's just so unique. It is one that I still recommend for those that are wanting something a little bit more intense. So if you like Dexter and those kinds of things, then I would really recommend this one. We have something lighter, Paranormalcy by Kirsten White. So I only have the first two, Paranormalcy and Supernaturally, the last book being Endlessly. So this one is on the younger, cheesier, fun side of YA. So we're following Evie. She works at the Paranormal Containment Agency. She's always thought of herself as normal, even though her best friend is a mermaid. Her ex-boyfriend is a fairy, and she's now falling for a shapeshifter. And she's also the only person that can see through paranormal's glamours. When paranormals start dying, she begins hearing voices and getting prophecies in her dreams and in her head, and she has to kind of team up to figure out what's going on. So we have pretty much every kind of like monster creature in here, like werewolves and shapeshifters and fairies and all kinds of different things. It's got a little bit of like Shadowhunter Society, but again, on the younger side, on the funner side, on the funny side. There's romance in here that's really angsty and kind of old school, and it's just really silly, and it's a really good time. I love a good school book, especially in like a paranormal setting. So I had a really good time with this one. All right, one that I hear nobody talk about is the Something Strange and Deadly trilogy by Susan Dennard. So there's Something Strange and Deadly, A Darkness Strange and Lovely, and Strange Ever After. So this is a gothic Victorian series with zombies. So Eleanor has a lot to worry about. Her brother has gone missing, her family's fallen on hard times, and her mother is determined to marry her off. But then the dead start rising in Philadelphia, and in a frightening attack, a zombie delivers a letter to Eleanor from her brother. Whoever is controlling this army of the dead has taken her brother as well. Such a unique trilogy. Zombies, we've got gothic, proper Victorian society, which gothic Victorian like horror and spooky books are like top tier for me. I absolutely love them. Again, incredibly unique one, filled with like friendships, a little bit of romance, really fun and different like situations that happen. Again, I really liked the way that this one wrapped up, and it is just the perfect vibe for spooky season. Next, we have the Name of the Star trilogy. So we have Name of the Star, The Madness Underneath, and The Shadow Cabinet is the third one. I think of this was actually supposed to be a quartet, so we'll talk about that in a second. This one's set in modern times in London. We're following Rory, who is a Louisiana teenager going to school in London. When she arrives, memorable day for her life changing and starting something new. But for London, it is a day to remember the horrifying events of Jack the Ripper. And some mimicking crimes begin to happen that mimic those from Jack the Ripper from 1888. And soon kind of chaos breaks out and Ripper mania starts. People become very obsessed with figuring out who this is, and they start to wonder if Jack the Ripper is maybe back from the dead. Rory spotted the man that police believe to be the subject of the murders, but she seems to be the only one who can see him. So we have kind of like a spooky paranormal type situation. It has a little bit of like Sherlock vibes to it. There's a romance in here I like. I really enjoyed this one for the world building, the way that the systems worked in the book for certain things. I thought it was super interesting. Definitely old school kind of angsty YA. My main complaint is that the final book I didn't love, and it doesn't fully tie the series up because I think she was intending wanting to write another book and it just never happened. It's still worth reading, like all 3 of them, but just kind of know that going in, it doesn't 100% wrap everything up. So this is such a good one vibe-wise because it's set in autumn and it's got like spooky, creepy vibes without being like truly scary. I usually don't like to read books that have like serial killers in them or things that feel too realistic, but because of the like paranormal, supernatural events, it's such a fun time. Next, we have the Mara Dyer trilogy. This one is probably the spookiest one on this list. For a while, it was like one of the scarier books that I had read, but I don't dive too deep into super scary books, so kind of take that with a grain of salt. The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, Evolution of Mara Dyer, and The Retribution of Mara Dyer. This one also has a spin-off series following Noah Shaw that I have not read because I heard bad things about it. I really, really liked this one a lot. We start off following Mara, who wakes up in a hospital and she has no idea how she got there. She can't remember what accident she was in, what killed her friends, or what left her unharmed. And she doesn't believe that after everything she has gone through that she could ever fall in love, but she is wrong. This one is for my angsty dark romance, but in a mild way and without the spice. I'm thinking romance is kind of like Shatter Me or even maybe a little bit Court of Thorns and Roses, but it's not fantasy at all. This is set in our world and Mara Dyer is a very unreliable narrator. This one does have some heavier, darker topics like trauma and abuse and things like that. I don't feel like they were overly talked about or made the book feel too heavy. I do feel like it was kind of creepy and scary. I physically read these. I want to try the audio sometime. I feel like I might enjoy them even more now, but just know like old school, angsty, kind of Edwardy type romance, but I really like our love interest because he was like dark and broody, but he was never over the top or like rude or mean, if that makes sense. I really enjoyed this. I like the way that it ended as well, and I had a good time with it. Okay, these last 3 are probably my favorites. We have the House of Furies trilogy by Madeleine Roux. So we have House of Furies, Court of Shadows, and Tomb of Ancients. These covers don't match. It drives me insane because they have a beautiful cover that matches, but it's only in paperback. So we're gonna hold up Court of Shadows because House of Furies is kind of shiny and it creates a glare. We're following Louisa, who escaped a brutal English boarding school where punishments were the lessons of the day. She meets this like mysterious old woman who offers her a job in this mysterious house as like a cleaning, a maid type person. This one is, I believe, also Gothic Victorian. When she gets to Cold Thistle House, she realizes that the owner, Mr. Morningside, is providing more than just room and board for his guests. This house is a place of judgment. Mr. Morningside and his staff are meant to cast their own brand of dark justice for those who are beyond saving. So this has a lot going on with it. There's some supernatural elements. There's those good Gothic Victorian elements. It's just a tiny bit spooky. It's definitely not as spooky as this makes it seem. It makes it seem like really scary, but it has those good like Gothic Victorian dark fall vibes without being heavy or truly scary. I really like the way this one ended. It kind of goes off the rails a little bit, but I really thought it was just so interesting. I love Madeleine Roux's writing style. These covers are gorgeous, and I always think of this one around the fall time. Next, we have the Madman's Daughter trilogy by Megan Shepherd. This one started my love of like Gothic Victorian horror. I didn't know at the time it was considered horror, or I probably wouldn't have read it, but I'm so glad I did because I realized that horror can be kind of creepy and spooky without being like truly terrifying. This one definitely has a little bit more gruesome elements in it that we'll talk about in a second, but not too much, just like a tad in this first book. So we have A Madman's Daughter, Her Dark Curiosity, and A Cold Legacy. These are some of my favorite covers of all time. I would love to give this series a revival so that we could get some special editions because this first book especially, one of my favorite fall books of all time. They are all loose retellings. This first one is a retelling of Island of Dr. Moreau. I believe this one is loose of Frankenstein, and I think this one is Jekyll and Hyde, or I could have gotten those mixed up, but they all follow the same characters and go in order. So we're following Juliet. She is living a simple life, being a maid, going to church on Sunday, trying to forget the events that made her life take a turn. No one has proved that the gruesome experiments that her father may have done is true, but when she finds out that he is alive and on a remote tropical island, she is determined to figure out if the accusations are true. She also wants to become a surgeon or a doctor, so she's trying to get into the medical field in a time where it is not likely for a woman to be able to do this. And she runs into her father's assistant, and he decides to help her come and find her father and figure out what's going on. He is also one of her old childhood friends. These have the perfect fall, gothic, spooky vibes. I did the audio for these. I'm so glad. The narrator was amazing. And this has one of my favorite bookish memories ever, because when I was kind of first getting into audios, when this first book ended, I remember being so like shocked and surprised with how good the book was. It just left me like flabbergasted because I loved it. So we do talk about vivisection in these books, like experimenting on live animals and people. It's kind of what Dr. Moreau is about, is creating like animal human creatures. So there are a few kind of slightly hard to read, like gruesome parts, not nearly as much as Market of Monsters, but just kind of know that going in, like one of the students has to like dissect a live bunny and it kind of screeches. There is technically like animal cruelty in here. I felt like it was done in a good way to move the story forward and not too gruesome, but I just like to warn people that that's in there. I hope that doesn't take you off of the books, because it would be really easy to skip, and it just creates such a creepy atmosphere and a dark view of what is happening in the story. So mysterious and twisty and turny and so good. I did really enjoy the second and the third book as well, just because I like her writing style. I liked the characters. I didn't love them quite as much as this first one, but I think overall like a great series. And lastly, we have Belladonna by Adeline Grace, my somewhat current obsession, my favorite trilogy for fall now. So we have Belladonna, Foxglove, Wisteria, and then very soon we will have Holly, but this is a holiday novella that follows the events, I believe, after Wisteria. So this is technically still a trilogy. You do need to read these before you read that. This series completely stole my heart a couple years ago for Not So Scary-a-thon. Again, I was listening on audio and I love this narrator so much. At first she's like a little bit slow and luscious, so you definitely need to speed her up, but she just captures the story so good. And if you love a good like gothic Victorian proper society but with spooky vibes, like, oh, it's so perfect. Following Signa Faro, she feels like death is following her wherever she goes. Her parents have died, and now her latest caretaker has died, and she feels like she can kind of sense death around her and communicate with death, and so she tries to kind of ward him off because she wants nothing to do with him. He's taken a lot from her. She gets taken in by some long lost relatives at a place called Thorngrove Manor, but when she gets there, the staff and her uncle are mourning the death of the matriarch of the family. The mother has died. It's very sad and everyone's kind of distraught. Her uncle kind of throws these like drunken parties, and she has some cousins that she gets to know. When she gets there, she starts to kind of be suspicious if maybe the mother died under nefarious circumstances. So the mother of the house appears to Signa as a ghost and tells her that she was poisoned. So Signa and a fellow worker at the manor decide to kind of investigate and figure out what's going on, because one of Signa's cousins is now sick and they're worried she may be poisoned as well. So we have lots of like poisonous plants and flowers in here. There is such a good gothic swoony romance. So good. A very mild amount of spice, like 0.5%, because it is still young adult. A little bit more in Wisteria, but not much. There are tea parties and debutante balls and proper society and breaking societal norms, and it is just so good. It's incredible. The second book, we're still following some characters from here, but we get some new characters that are kind of the main cast, and that kind of continues on Wisteria. So I like everybody to know that going in, because I loved following Signa and our other main characters, and they're still going to be there, but we kind of switch over to a new storyline, but still in the world and everything. Give it a chance, because I almost liked this more, and this one almost made me cry. Like, it was so beautiful. It has really good like winter vibes. I cannot wait to read the new novella that comes out. I might even be going to a ball that the author is hosting this year to kind of kick off the release party for the novella. So pumped for it. I love this one. I've gushed about it a million times because I reread this one twice, like every time a new book came out. I'm tempted to do it again, but it's just one of my favorite trilogies of all time, but especially for spooky season. Those are 10 of my favorite slightly spooky trilogies for fall. Hopefully this was a really thorough guide that will give you some more book ideas for the rest of fall and spooky season. Let me know if you have a favorite like spooky trilogy down below in the comments. I'm constantly reading more, so hopefully I will update this in the future. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at The Bright Side Girl if you haven't already, as I post a lot of bookish content and like fall Halloween content on there as well. And I'll see you guys next time on The Bright Side.